Afternoon, David. Did you have a good time last night?
Oh, marvellous time, mate. Absolutely marvellous time. It's a great wee night. And the Indy 2 Cafe made £1,000 for food banks. So
What I enjoy is it's a bit like a marching rally. You're surrounded by people of a similar mind to yourself. And it was good. It was really, really good that, and you get really, really nice people there. The amount of people I met last night that I'd met for the first time. I mean, one laddie called Robert Duncan, and he was an electrical engineer, so that we'd a lot in common, that we could talk about. And he's a really interesting bloke, So, hi, Robert, if you're coming on. But people like Anne and Nancy and all that, blooming out, the salt of the bloody earth. They really are lovely, lovely, lovely people.
I love people. Stephen Kelly's just dropped into Facebook. And Jacqueline McGee's dropped into Facebook.
Well, I'm getting Suzanne DeWitt, Alistair Kilpatrick, Daniel Ashbridge, Lenny Hughes, Daniel Ashbridge, I think I mentioned him before, George Neve, Gary Forbes. Well, we've got a good number on, so I suggest that we proceed. Okay.
Well, 26 people I can see, but that'll pick up as things go on.
Yeah. I mean, we'll do the preamble, and the preamble is that we're going to go through the budget bit by bit, but also what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and answer the question of, look, we know they're no daft, we know they're not stupid, they're highly educated people. Why are they doing it? So leave that till later, and we'll get through the budget bit by bit. Okay.
Right. Why don't we start with his opening statement?
Right. Well, basically, Kwasi Kwarteng said that the budget will provide the biggest package in generations of tax cuts to send a clear signal that economic growth is the government's priority. It comes on top of plans to freeze household energy bills at $2,500 for a typical household. The Chancellor says the government was never going to let households face soaring energy bills caused by Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, telling people help is coming with a rising cost of living. Now, he, in that single statement, he pinned all the inflation, all the energy bills and everything on Putin. David, can you give us a comment on that, please?
We're only getting 4% of our gas fee. We were only getting 4% of our gas from Putin. And although we get a lot of diesel fuel from Putin, that can be sourced elsewhere as well. So that's a bag of a bag of crap there, right there. But it's handy that they've got Putin to blame for this stuff. And what's interesting is that they're pinning this whole budget. They're saying the new economic strategy is tax cuts to stimulate growth. Unfortunately, tax cuts to stimulate growth only works if you give the tax cuts to everybody. Now, the Resolution Foundation, as you and I know, have had a look at this now and have said that £204 a year you'd be better off if you're a medium earner. An average earner of 24,000 plus a year. So, what's that? So we get 204. So £204 divided by 48, and you are £4.25 a week better off.
Yeah.
£4.25.
Yeah.
If you are on the lowest earnings, meaning the minimum wage, it's something like 67 pence a month. That £4 was a month, by the way. But it's not going to be enough to get consumers. We spoke about this rushing out into the shops.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about food price inflation, but with the pound, with the run on the pound on Friday, as he was speaking, the buying power of supermarkets just went right down the tubes, which means that food price inflation is going to rocket, absolutely rocket. And I see a mad article on and on STV it's either this morning or yesterday afternoon, saying that climate change means that the Scottish potato farmers are going to be in trouble. I was like, I thought we don't talk fish. It's an unusual year where they've only had 38% of the average rainfall. But there you go. Potato prices are going to be through the roof and all.
Yeah.
Because apparently the yield's not going to be great this year.
Yeah. And these are what they call staples. These are the basic items that people turn into other things, right?
Aye.
You know, so all of a sudden, the real cost to consumers is much higher, just on the cost of basic staples going up like that. You know,
the idea that the reason why everybody says that this idea that they've got to cut taxes, especially for the richest, to stimulate growth in the economy. Well, you and I know there's a few problems with that there. Yeah. For a start, if you have a growing economy, you need somebody to sell to.
Yeah.
The internal market consumers don't have any money, and we don't have any external markets anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts when you look at it like that, right? But I honestly believe there's a bit more to it, and we'll get to that towards the end. All right. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll go beyond the opening statement, and we'll go into income tax cuts. Quarting announced 45% additional rate income tax band for those earning more than 150,000 will be scrapped entirely. The 40% higher rate charged on incomes above 50,271 will remain. The Chancellor will bring forward a cut in the basic rate of income tax from 20 to 19% to April 2023. I'll continue it. I'll just continue this section. The main income tax changes predominantly apply in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Don't forget, Scotland has its own income tax setup. The Chancellor says, we won't apologise for focusing on economic growth. For too long in the country, we indulged in a fight over redistribution. Now we need to focus on growth, not just how we tax and spend, he says. Quarteng confirms the 1.25 percentage point national insurance rise introduced earlier in the year will be cancelled from 6th of November. Now, the national insurance does include Scotland, right? But the rest of it is specifically for England, Wales, Northern Ireland, right?
Which brings us to an interesting point I've just brought from Margaret Brand. She's heard an idiot say yesterday that Nicola Sturgeon will be capping it because all the high-tech taxpayers will move to England because they will pay less tax. Let's put that one to bed quite quickly. You're not selling a 5-bedroom townhouse in Edinburgh to move to a fucking cupboard in London. And apart from that, we'll not go into the social contract. We've done that one to death, but the social contract here in Scotland is much better.
Do you know the same applies for when they talk about businesses going, well, if you go for independence, we're moving south, right? I've moved a business. I've actually shifted a decent-sized business from one location to another. They were 20 miles apart, right? My goodness me. That cost an arm and a leg. I mean, that cost several King Charles ransoms, right? Seriously. Well, okay, I wouldn't get 10p from it. But anyway, that's beside the point. So moving from Scotland down to England for any company that you could mention, they would have to get the deal of the century, right? In order to move south. Without that deal of the century, they ain't going to do it. They're going to look at the numbers and go, no, we'll stay where we are.
Well, you think about it, David. I mean, you've got to secure new premises. You've got to shift all your machinery and all that sort of thing. And you've got to hire and train a new workforce.
Yeah. Or you've got to pay some of your key workers
to move with you
for them to move south as well. You know. Right. So anyway, right.
And they did announce that next April the base rate of income tax in England will drop from 20 pence to 19 pence. Now, as I say, there's going to be an awful lot of pressure on the SNP to follow suit, But Scotland is a more left-leaning country, and we value our public services more than they do down that road. So I imagine that the SNP will not be following suit.
Well, that remains to be seen, obviously, right? But at the moment, you've got now a situation where there's going to become overwhelming pressure coming down the rate to raise taxes again.
Yes.
The Tories aren't going to do it. They're going to sit where they are, right? And the pressure for raising taxes is just going to become stupidly high, right? More on that later.
The other thing we have to make clear, if you wait a minute, the other thing I want to make clear to viewers on this, so that they understand that in Scotland we've got 5 income tax bands, and the lower 3 of those income tax bands actually pay less tax than what they would in England.
Yeah.
At this point in time. Obviously, when they drop the base rate to 19 pence the pound down that road, then obviously that will bring a bit of parity, even though they're going to claim that we'll be paying more tax. It'll just bring parity with the lower 3 bands.
Just a wee funny point here. If any of you are ever having difficulty getting to sleep on a night time, right, get out the tax numbers online, Google them, right, and start working out what your wage is and how they calculate your tax. It is a really excellent way to drop off to sleep, I can assure you. In fact, the UK tax system is the most complex tax system, I think, in the world.
It's also one of the most loopholes.
A wee man with a tiny wee company like me, I pay a guy £2,000 a year just to work out how much I owe the UK government. That's the reason for the complexity of it.
I want to address this, and there'll be plenty of trolls claiming that they moved from Scotland to England for tax purposes. Ignore them. Well, you know, when last time there was any tax cuts down that road, and up here it was actually when we changed the taxes up here, and the last time Nicola raised tax by a penny across the board, we had the debate on BBC Scotland, the phone in the morning. And actually, the most affluent people in Scotland were phoning in and saying, "No, we're not moving, we're not going anywhere." You know, They were saying, "We will gladly pay more tax." And we've heard, I mean, we've seen letters signed by millionaires down that road saying, "We want to pay more tax, taxes more." That was that letter circulating with 150 millionaires that signed it and said, "Tax us more. We, the poor buggers, are laying tax us more."
Yeah.
You know. And the people up here are much more community centred. So high earners are not going anywhere. They don't mind paying that wee bit more. You know, they don't mind paying that wee bit more. They don't.
Now, David, we were discussing a wee bit before we started the show. Given that number of people over 150,000 income.
The number of people in the UK earning, this is a PAYE system. We have to make that clear because other people who don't work in the PAYE system, who pay themselves through dividends and things like that, they're not subject to this. Okay, they've got a different tax system altogether. But the amount of people on the PAYE system that are earning their 150,000. James O'Brien was talking about this the other day because he was pissed off that he just gave him a big tax break of 4,700 quid. He says he doesn't need that tax break. But anyway, he said it was something like 676,000 of them that earn that amount of money.
Yeah.
And see, you get right down here, this idea that I will get the bankers' bonuses and that, but you know, this idea that giving them money is going to help stimulate the economy, it's just mental.
Yeah.
And as we've just spoke about, the idea that it's going to generate growth is just nuts. Who put that bloody thing up?
Yeah.
Oh, stop this. I'm going mental with this here. Paying tax and high earners more to help people on lower incomes, and what our country does to help its citizens. Yeah, a lot of truth in that. I've seen the article. So as I say, the idea that this budget was to stimulate growth is a pile of rubbish. We're just watching a transfer of wealth from the public purse into the richest people's pockets. And that means public services will suffer.
Birds of a feather flock together, don't they? So the Treasury has for 48 hours been furious that the news of its planned stamp duty cut leaked sent the house buying market into paralysis. It was envisaged as being a possible rabbit out of the hat, a surprise, major announcement that would go straight to the top of the news agenda. However, that would have been easily overtaken by the move Kwarteng managed to keep under wraps before announcing it will easily be the biggest fanfare of the statement from his own side, scrapping the 45% additional rate band of income tax. This will fuel criticism that his mini budget substantially benefits the better off and deeper divide amongst Tory MPs. Now then, next one we're going on to is bankers' bonuses. You just mentioned it there a wee bit. I'll read what they actually know. Kwarteng confirms the bankers' bonuses cap will be scrapped to reaffirm the UK status as a leading financial centre. He says the bonus was falling and all it did was push up basic salaries of bankers or drive them outside the UK to Europe, right? Now, let's just look at the retort in that. Kwarteng is again walking a thin line between the various factions of the Conservative Parliamentary Party. He knows lifting the cap on bankers' bonuses will go down like a cup of cold sick with some of his colleagues, particularly those from the red wall seats. Okay.
An article in the Telegraph this morning, London set for influx of bankers from New York and Edinburgh. No. For a start, why would they want to move to Edinburgh when the lifting of the cap and bankers' bonuses will apply in Edinburgh as well? Yeah. So they need to move.
Yeah.
The cap on their bonuses will already be that applies UK wide. And as for people coming from New York, there isn't inward investment in England at the moment. It was 1% last year, 1%. Whereas inward investment in Scotland was 8.6%. You get the Everleigh company, a financial company, asset managed company. That's moving from London to Glasgow.
Yeah.
There's an article in Glasgow Live about it during the week there.
Yeah.
So the bankers are not moving to Edinburgh. Anyway, the banks are all owned and headquartered in London, so they don't need to move their bankers to Edinburgh.
Yeah. Always what the hope was to combat what the French had done, right? And effectively, they had given their bankers a wee bit of a free rein as regards the cap is concerned. Because remember this, not all things that are passed by the European Union are taken up by every single one of the European states, right? So consequently, each state can do what it likes, but what happens is they all vote, so therefore it's taken that, yeah, we'll take that in, we'll do that, like the Human Rights Act. So let's just finish that. I think bankers' bonuses is something that's happening. We're just going to live with it, and I don't think it's going to give them.
We know why it's happening, and the press are not telling people why it's happening, David. It's happening because bankers are fleeing London.
But
they're
why are they
their capital out of London and they're moving to the European capitals?
Aye. So why are they fleeing London? Why do you think that is? No passport and rights to do the deals in Europe, right? And it's like they're held back at everything. Or the doors are closed in front of them. So they just think, right, if I move to Strasbourg or I move to Paris or whatever.
Move to Paris, move to Amsterdam, move to any of the financial centres in Europe. It makes sense for them. Because let's face it, this internal market is only at 65 million customers. The EU internal market has got 450 million customers.
Yeah.
If I'm a financial service If I'm in financial services, I want to be able to sell my services right across the board. I don't want barriers in my way. And the reason why the Everly company is moving from London to Glasgow is the writing's on the wall for the UK, no matter what the London bus driver thinks. In fact, James O'Brien himself said it. You know, and John made a fair point. He says, tax everybody at 25%. It could work.
Yeah, it could.
You know.
And
John, you're just this. John, I'm glad you're on the day, because with this particular statement, you've just destroyed the Tory party's main argument for this budget. Tax people more money means less money to spend. John, that's right. That means we Mrs. McGlumford has got nothing to spend in the shops. Economy contracts. So Quatang's boast that giving the rich more money will trickle down and see the economy grow and go for growth is just bollocks. You've just said it yourself, John. You're a Tory and you've just said it. Tax people more, they have less to spend in the shops. Well, guess what? That's exactly what the Tory party's been doing. Taxing people more. But you destroyed your own argument, Kwasi Kwarteng's argument about tax the rich less and they'll spend more. No, they won't. They never have. They'll take that. If you're on £1 million and you get an extra 55,000 a year, you're on £1 million a year and you get an extra 55,000 a year. You're Cayman Isles with the rest of it.
Yeah. Right, we're going on to business tax cuts now, right? Kwarteng says...
You know, he hasn't got a Scooby. Look at the state of your country. John, it's not your country that's in a shite state. We don't have excessively high council tax. We don't have university tuition fees. We don't have ambulances sitting outside fucking hospitals for 10 hours before you get in and start your way. These people just vote for self-harm, John. You're on, what, 40 grand a year as a bus driver, you spanner. You're getting nothing out of this. And you're voting for it. This is a transfer of wealth out of your public services into their pals' pockets, and you fucking don't even notice it, you spanner. Unreal. But to be honest with you, John, you've just crashed your own Chancellor's economic argument, and now you're trying to tell us we're in shite state. We pay less tax than you, you spanner. We've got 5 tax bands. But I don't suppose you would know that, John. You know. Because you come in here, week in, week out, you make one sensible comment, and then you throw.
Right.
You know. Right, let's move on.
Business tax cuts. Kwarteng says next year's increase in corporation tax from 19 to 25% will be cancelled. Woohoo! For me,
if they couldn't get inward investment at 19%, they weren't getting inward investment at 25%. As I've just stated, these are facts. You can look these up yourself. Office for National Statistics. And
we will have the lowest rate of corporation tax in the G20. Reversing the tax rise will put 19 billion a year back into the economy. Now that is a cracker of a statement. How does you've taken away that tax increase and keeping it at 19%? How does that put 19 billion a year back into the economy?
It doesn't. It's just 19 billion a year that they're going to tax out of the economy to put to the public services. But if they couldn't, now to get back to what I was saying there, the Office of National Statistics, HMRC, inward investment in England last year was 1.1%. Inward investment in Scotland last year from overseas was 8.6%.
Yeah. We'll
get banking institutions fleeing London and moving to Glasgow. There's something going on.
Yeah, right. Hang on. Kwarteng says companies will be able to use this to reinvest, create jobs, raise wages, or pay dividends which support our pensions. Now, look, I'm very practical when it comes to this, right? If there's no change, that means there's going to be no change in my plans for the next year. If all of a sudden the UK government said, Dave, we're giving you 60 grand next year, I might take on somebody to come and give me a hand, right? But if there's no change, then I won't change, right? So that yet again is another utterly idiotic statement.
It's an absolute lie, and the suckers doing that road are buying it. If there's no change, then there's no extra money for them to invest. There's only what there is to do. And because of the shrinking the value of the pound, they're not going to be spending. Because the cost of everything's just went through the roof. There's a lot of businesses that we're talking about, even before the pound crashed on Friday. They were talking about no investment because it was costing too much to build anything, because you need to import the building materials. Cost too much. You know, so, I mean, businesses are downscaling. They're not upscaling. And talk about, how much did you say, 19 billion quid that didn't really exist and is not going to go into anybody's pockets? What a lot of mince. And the people south of that border are buying this pish. They wonder they're called the Conservatives. It's a contract. Absolute mental. Telling these businesses there, you've got another 19 billion pound available to you, but actually nothing's changed and there's nothing available to them. And the suckers down there that vote for these muppets buy it.
It's like pointing a gun at somebody's head and then saying, all right, we're not going to shoot you in the head, we're going to shoot you in the knee. And you go, thank goodness for that. You know. Anyway, as far as business tax cuts are concerned, then there are going to be certain businesses that are going to maybe breathe a sigh of relief that the corporation taxes have gone up, because these are the businesses that do pay their taxes into.
This muppet again, right? Life expectancy around Glasgow is 50 years old. John, we have just had the National Records for Scotland put out this year's life expectancy list. The average life expectancy of a man in Scotland, including Glasgow, is 76, and for a woman, it's 80. In England, in the southeast, it's a wee bit higher. Right? It's because there's more people, unlike you, who are a bus driver and a Tory, which is weird. But unlike you, most of them doing the southeast are pretty wealthy. I mean, what you don't really realise, John, is you're a lackey to get them back and forth to their offices in the city. That's all you are. You're a big taxi driver to get them into their offices. Well, you get paid buttons.
Right. Can we do a wee deal here, David?
I'm
not responding to John anymore. He is
right, I won't respond anymore. Right. Some of the pitching comes away with Google
I know that. But at the same time, we've got to get on with the job. We're trying to inform people of what's going on, right? So let's do that. And let's not bother with John Burgess anymore, all right?
Aye.
Anyway, right, so next we're going to go on to stamp duty and other tax changes. Stamp duty will be cut for property buyers in England, not in Northern Ireland, as read in media leaks this week. The Chancellor says it is a permanent cut effective from today. In the current system, there is no stamp duty to pay on the first £125,000 of a property's value. It will be doubled to 250,000, right? The threshold for first-time buyers will rise from 300,000 to 425,000, right? Now, we discussed this before the programme. David, why is it 425,000 and not 400 and not 500? Why specifically 425,000?
Because the average price of a new build property in the southeast of England is 412,000. If the housing market expands a wee bit and the price goes up, it gives them wriggle room for a couple of years until the general election.
Yeah, right.
All right, so that's the reason why it's set at 425, because the average price of a new build in the southeast of England is 412,000. We checked it before we came on air.
Yeah. Okay. The maximum property value for first-time buyers relief will rise from 500,000 to 625,000. All right. Elsewhere, the Chancellor says he will scrap the Office of Tax Simplification, OTS. It is asking every department to focus on this instead. Other measures to cut reform tax rules include IR35 rules. Now, in actual fact, out of it all, I've got to say that's the one sensible measure. The IR35 rules did affect an awful lot of people, and it was stupid. It created a situation where people that were coming here to do a contract for a specific reason, maybe an IT expert from somewhere or whatever, right?
An engineer.
They were paying tax both in the UK and also in their home, wherever they were from. So the IR35 tax rules never should have come in the first place, right? It's simplified to remove unnecessary complexity and cost for businesses. Planned increases in duty rates for beer, wine, and cider will be cancelled. Woohoo! Right.
Keep them drunk, not to stop them rising up.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Expected traditional criticism of champagne corks popping in the city from Labour, as Kwarteng confirms that the planned beer, spirits and wine duty rise will not go ahead, coming after the bankers' bonuses announcement. Such moves are making this mini budget sound more and more like an actual like an actual budget. Right? Okay. So, finances. Kwarteng says the government will expand the supply side of the economy through tax cuts to target economic growth of 2.5% a year. Well, he's on bloody drugs.
Right. Well, Margaret Rand asked a pertinent question, and that was what first-time buyer could afford £425,000 home. Well, obviously those and such as those. But one thing's for sure, it's no London bus driver. It's kids that can afford that.
Yeah, it's mommy and daddy, giving up some of their inheritance before, you know the situation with inheritance tax, that you can do a certain size of a gift each year if you're particularly moneyed, right? And I've a friend that's in that situation where he's giving his kids so much each year so that they're not paying inheritance tax when he plumbing kicks the bucket, right?
That'll be going anyway. That'll be the next thing to go. They're saying there's more tax cuts coming. The Tories will be wanting to deal with inheritance tax for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. So I'll just continue on with that. The Chancellor says he will turn a vicious cycle of stagnation into a virtuous circle of growth, although cautions that none of this is going to happen overnight.
None is going to happen at all.
Yeah. Kwarteng commits to the Office for Budget Responsibility publishing a full economic and fiscal forecast before the end of the year. Their pencils must be on bloody fire. The government energy support scheme is expected to cost $60 billion for the 6 months from October.
That's $60 billion for the help for businesses, or $60 billion for the help for businesses and homes.
Yeah. So next we'll go into infrastructure planning, which I think is quite interesting, right? Kwarteng says the government will bring forward measures to streamline regulations and remove EU-derived laws. As I've just said to you, right, the laws from the EU weren't imposed on the UK, right? The nonsense that you read in the paper about the EU are stating that bananas have to be bent that much, not that much, right, is luripish, right? Yep. And each country in the European Union, they voted on certain laws, but it was down to them whether they actually adopted those laws. So this is another piece of fish, right? The Chancellor says a list of key infrastructure projects will be prioritised for acceleration today. Now, I would imagine he's going to include in that HS2, things like that, infrastructure projects, right? And okay, fair enough. But yet again, if he's locked that much off the tax income, where's the money coming from? Well, I'll tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from the North Sea.
Yep.
They get an awful lot more off the North Sea operations than we are told in Gers. What happens is, at one time, they all used to come through a pipe onto the coast of Scotland, and at that point, we got a wee bit of the dripping roast, but it was tiny. It was we were accredited with it, right? What they did was an area called the extra region, right, or extra regio, right? And what they did was they made it whereby big tankers went up to the oil rig and offloaded the oil directly onto the boats. and then they headed for Rotterdam or wherever, right? The tax was still charged, but it was taxed on the extra region, not as Scotland. So therefore, the Treasury still got a pile of tax coming in, but not shown against Scotland's books.
Right.
So I hope that explains some of it to you. It's a lot more complex. And in actual fact, HMRC, the tax code, if you actually look it up, they actually wrote it down. It's a rule, and you can read it, and your jaw gets wider and wider as you're going through it.
Aye.
So,
Cardine should go there.
I saw you got that last night.
That's getting up the wall. And every time we get somebody like John, I'll just point at it. Send them to the Lord state. It seems to have buggered off when we pointed out that it wasn't a bus driver's kid that was going to be able to afford a £400,000 first time mortgage. But
so I'm just going to finish that, right?
Right.
This is the retort, all right? To avoid accusations that the government has reneged on Theresa May's long-held mantra, there is no magic money tree, Kwarteng put forward a figure of about 60 billion on the expected value of the energy sector over the next 6 months. The two, I can't see that one. I just can't figure out where he's making they don't join up. It simply doesn't join up. Either there's no magic money tree or the bloody is, and we know that what the magic money tree is. It's a wee guy sitting at a computer in the Bank of England, and he goes, click, there you are, there's another 50 billions, all right.
There you go. There's a rigger. In the 80s, we had tankers filling from our platforms until we hooked into the BP pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, as you know now, Struthers, they're back to pumping it onto them straight for the platforms again.
Yeah.
There is some that goes into the refinery you get fuels that sell on boat, but mostly it's pumped straight for rigs into boats.
Yeah. So all right. That's as I said. I think he's using smoke and mirrors there to try and fool people into thinking that there's no magic money tree, but we're getting it from here. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense.
It is when you see this next one. Kwarteng and Trust brought these policies in to allow their donors and friends to shop the pound and make millions. That's exactly what we were watching on Friday.
Okay. Next one's an important one. Very, very important. Strikes legislation. The Chancellor says the government will legislate to tackle militant trade unions from closing down key infrastructure through strikes. The laws will require unions to put pay offers to a member's vote to ensure strikes can only be called once pay talks have genuinely broken down, he says. Now, bloody hell. The unions could easily deal with that, right? They could literally just put any number they like to the
Hold on. Wayne here wants the main Morrison. How do you guys know about the lack of oil revenue and the Scottish government don't? You guys are either lying or the Scottish government fools. No, actually, Mr. Morrison, we're all quite aware of the change in the tax rules that George Osborne brought in, and that includes the Scottish government. Income from oil revenue last year to the Exchequer was something like 45 billion quid. It's that little that comes to Scotland now. It's just not worth it. No, it isn't worth. But it isn't the Gers figures. I think last year it was 660 million.
Yeah.
Million out of 45 billion. All right, Mr. Wayne. So the Scottish government are well aware it is listed in Gers.
Yeah.
But Mr. Osborne was the one that changed the tax rules. Prior to that, Scotland was doing no bad out the oil. Actually, we were getting an 8.3% share of the oil money. But as I say, Osborne changed the tax rules.
During Maggie Thatcher's reign, she was getting the order of 45 billion hitting the Exchequer every year, and that was for about 3 years. I believe. So she had plenty of money to get, put things in place that she wanted to.
Oh, you know, Maggie did with unemployment. She moved most of them into long-term sick to bring down the unemployment figures. That's not happening this time. What they're doing is they're just not adding in the sick figures.
Yeah, they're calling them economically inactive. Right. So, investment zones. I know this is part of your party piece, David. What I'll do is I'll read out the key points and then you can carry on from that. The Chancellor confirms almost 40 investment zones will be created with tax breaks for businesses. Areas including Tees Valley, West Midlands, Norfolk and the west of England are in the running. If we really want to level up, we have to unleash the power of the private sector. So please, David, carry on.
It's no longer free ports, it's now investment zones. What's interesting about that is they're talking about doing away with planning regs in these investment zones.
Yeah.
The idea is that it would allow an innovative new building techniques to be tried in these areas. Let's hope the building regs still apply, even if the planning regs don't.
Yeah.
But these economic zones, these 40 zones he's talking about creating lower tax, lower national insurance, all that sort of pish he's talking about. It just doesn't work. We know they don't work. The last one only closed 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That was an absolute failure.
Yeah.
And no matter how much they deregulate these zones, it won't make any difference.
Yeah.
What will happen is the work will stream out of our towns and cities into these zones, and everybody will end up with long commutes and a lot more money coming into their bloody pockets.
Yeah, that's right. And the price of diesel and petrol will continue to be high, and people will not be able to afford to get to these faraway places. Something like that, Right, that's basically that's it covered, right? Now we get to
hold on, David, before we get to the bit we're going to round up on. What we can say is interesting about that budget was there was nothing there for the poorest in society whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. People on the medium earning like myself, or the average wage like myself, £204 a year out of that budget.
Yeah.
If you're on minimum wage, you get 67 pence a month, which is multiplied yourself. What's that? 6, 7, 8, 10 quid a year. And if you're on benefits, you're getting forced into work that isn't there and won't be there because of the contraction.
Yeah.
So
what David's talking about is people that are working and are receiving benefits still as working people, which is a ridiculous state of affairs. People shouldn't have to be on benefits in order to work. That's effectively the taxpayer paying the business owner to employ people. That's ridiculous, right? So it's people that are working and are on benefits. What they're saying is those people that are working should be working more hours. Well, it's down your boss whether you get more hours, surely, right?
The other thing with that is, David, there's people with part-time contracts for very important reasons, for caring reasons mainly. Yeah. Childcare, looking after a sick, disabled relative. So what he's basically doing is reversing the increase in the escalator, where benefits stop, which Rishi Sunak introduced last year.
Yeah.
But when you get to the people who are actually own benefits all the time, full time, they don't have any income, and they means raising their income, they get nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing there for pensioners.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're on your £9,800 a year pension, 11,000 or whatever now, and your electricity usage is average like mine. You're still £4,000 a year in electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary. Very.
It's scary. But I mean, the thing that needs to be made clear about this budget is the middle, the working class in the middle are being squeezed, so that those at the top of the tree can have more in their bank accounts and send it to the Cayman Islands, probably.
Yeah. So, come on, let's get on to the bit that we both discussed, both last night and also this morning, right? Is we know that the people that have put this together. It wasn't just Kwasi Kwarteng on his own with his best biro pen, right? We know that it's been put together by a team of people.
Aye.
Why would these very, very clever people effectively look to ruin the economy in such a way? This isn't on the TV. They're talking about they're playing fast and loose with the UK economy. They're not. They're buggering it, right? By doing what they've done, they're buggering it, right? So why would they do that? Why would they cause that kind of economic destruction? They've already caused it with Brexit, and so this is just one stage further, right, to ensure that the UK economy is crippled, right? So why would these intelligent people do something that is seemingly so stupid, right? I'll tell you why. They know they're going to get booted out in the 2024 election. The Tories know that it's benito finito for them, and it's like they can see what's happening, that Labour are coming up. They're about 10 points ahead at the moment, right? And that may grow further, right? So the Tories are out in the next election. So let's say I was a Tory and I was trying to work out a strategy whereby I could have Labour get in for one term, handle all the pain, and then get back in at the next election. What I would do is I would do what they're doing right now, is cripple the UK economy and make the Labour Party have to increase taxes by a huge amount in the next term. And then that means that the Tories would be able to come in and go, this is stupid, we need to bring down taxes. And then the idiots down the road would blooming vote for them like hand over foot, right?
Yeah.
So effectively, this is yet again another plan that we're seeing coming together, and it's going to work for the bastards. It really is. They're going to win, but I'll tell you what, they're losing Scotland. They're losing Scotland. And you want to say on that, Dave?
I agree with you there. What they're going to do is they're going to tank everything. Labour's going to have to come in and have a look at what's there, and they're going to have to rebuild public services. They're going to have to rebuild the civil service. They're going to have to rebuild everything, and that's going to cost money. And that means raising taxes, and raising taxes is not popular doing that road. You know? So, exactly what you say. 5 years down the road, they'll all be campaigning on lowering taxes.
Yeah.
But it's going to take more than 5 years to fix a mess down that road.
And it might even be Boris at the front of the blooming line. This is stupid. Hang on, I'll miss my error. This is stupid. So there you go. I mean, all I did was apply a wee bit of logic to that, and it smacked me like a hammer in the middle of the head. It's just bloody hell. That's why they're doing it, and it is purely simply to gerrymander. They know they're going to lose at the next election, but how can they manage to make it whereby the Labour only serve one single term, or even if it gets that bad for Labour, part of a term, and then the Tories would come back in again?
Well, you know, Jack puts up a good point. Jock puts up a good point there. 40% of universal credit claimants are working. Part-timers do part-time because they have other obligations. Workers' rights are gone. Come the new year, unions outlawed and working time directive used as toilet paper.
Yeah. Be nice.
Not exactly how it was termed, but absolutely correct. What's interesting about that, there's going to be a bonfire of all sorts of regs. And we're going to start to see shoddy shit coming into everywhere as we lower our standards.
And
because
there is
if you have got less money, they've got to buy less quality.
Yeah, well, and there is the other factor, is that now they know that Brexit is a cul-de-sac. They know it's a dead end. Don't you think they know what's causing inflation? Profiteering and Brexit. The fact that it's destroying the economy, it's destroying sterling. My goodness me, right? And it's like, I think they realise we need to get out of power just for one term. Let the other side blooming deal with the headache, and then we'll come back in and promise to fix it.
let the other side, it's not just deal with the headache. Let the asset-driven vulture capitalism, correct, Mr. E? As I say, what we're seeing at the moment is blatant theft, and it's going to go on for 2 years, and we're probably going to see more of this. Next year, at some point. But it's a transfer of wealth, and it's not even hidden. It's like going back to the Whigs doing that road 100 years ago, which developed into the Conservative and Unionist Party. They were a party of the elite who only operated for the elite, and that's what we've got at number 10 at the moment.
And as they said at that time, I forget who made the comment. We had to make the Tory party look as if it was working for everybody, when in fact it wasn't.
Yep. I need to put this one up. It won't be a problem by then. So who really cares? But we do. We can't have a basket case next door, Stevie.
That's right.
I mean, we're all having a laugh about the currency at the moment and saying what currency is England going to use? The tatty scone, or what currency are we going to use? Well, the tatty scone's worth more than £1 now, so we'll probably just use tatty scones. But what we really don't want is a basket case next door. So when we launch for currency in central bank, they're probably going to have to peg to us, or we're going to have to peg to them to undermine our currency, because it's going to be such a hard currency because of the amount of assets we've got. It's all in the Macron report if you want to read that. I'll tell you how strong Scotland's currency would be. So we're going to have to do what Norway does, and that's massively undermine our own currency.
They call it planned devaluations. It's not like the devaluation that we saw during the tenure of Harold Wilson, where he had to massively devalue the pound, and it hurt the whole UK, right? A planned devaluation is a good thing, because in actual fact, believe it or not, it releases more money into the country for people, and also what it does is it stops our exports from becoming too costly. So a bottle of whiskey that costs 20 quid abroad would still cost 20 quid abroad. That's it.
Suzanne, that's how great. Nobody wants to see people suffer. It's not about revenge or hate. It's called human beings. And there's another one here I want to put up, and that is this one. Class wars are on. Rich v poor. What do you get? But see, when you get right, don't you, David? What did people expect? We've just seen how the class system cemented into that whole system down that road when Charlie came out for Lizzie.
In effect, it's like it seems as if in Scotland the general way that we've got to thinking is that we're sort of brought up to think everybody's equal. I'll talk to a king or a pauper the same way, right? And a class limit is the same in front of me. They're just another human being, right? Whereas in England, it seems to be that they believe that there are people better than them, which is wrong. I'm an engineer. I'll give respect to an engineer that's had a lot more accomplishments than mine, and I might learn something, right? That's fair enough. But I don't consider him to be better than me. I just need to learn what he's learned.
Aye. Now, Margaret's asking if the aim is to crash the economy and the pound, will that have any effect on our new currency or economy? Once we get our central bank set up and we launch for currency, Margaret, as I've just said, because of Scotland's massive assets and wealth, we're going to have to massively undervalue our currency anyway. So pegging it to sterling and keeping sterling zone alive, because that's what's required here actually, would probably be the wise thing to do. But probably the way they'll behave down that road when we become independent and we get into negotiations, the way they behave down that road, we've seen the way they behave towards the EU, then we're probably going to peg it to the euro or something and say, get it round you and let them sink.
It's like a business, right? Let me explain this, right? Assets are so important, right? I had a friend that had a plastics factory in Teesside, right? He owned the factory. He owned all the gear in it. He owned all his own vehicles, right? and that meant. Hang on, David. Let me finish this point. Right.
Yep.
And he therefore was able to use those assets to his betterment. If he needed suddenly to get money from the bank would say, "What assets have you got?" "Well, I've got this, this, this." Next door, you had a factory owner, not owner, but a guy came in, took a factory. He leased the factory, leased the cars, leased all the bits and pieces and all the rest of it, all the machinery that went in, right? That company had no assets. So what you've got is you've got Scotland. We're awash with assets. England, no assets. What's going on, right? So you can see that when we take our independence, we're going to have the assets to back up our currency.
Right, Wayne has answered Margaret's question, but he's right. Margaret, there would be a huge run on our currency from the markets, and an independent Scotland out then wouldn't have the foreign reserve necessary to protect it. Wayne, let's clear that one up. 10% of the gold in the Bank of England comes up this road, and we all have pound sterling in our pockets. So when we hand them over for our new notes, there is your currency reserve right there. And of course, as we've just spoke about, inward investment in Scotland is massive, and it will be even bigger. So we all have currency reserves very quickly because people are still want to buy what Scotland's got. But the biggest foreign currency reserve will be the transfer of the money that we use at the moment. When it goes out of circuit, when we hand that into our central bank, and they issue us with the new Scottish notes. Because let's face it, the Bank of England will still exist. These notes will be foreign currency, and they'll be foreign currency reserves. Throwing top at 10% of the gold in the Bank of England, which belongs to us, and of course the inward investment, and people still want to buy Scottish goods. Foreign currency reserve, what you're talking about there is absolute nonsense. So Wayne,
yeah,
the naughty step boy.
We've got about 15 billion in gold, haven't we? Scotland. 10%
of what was in the Bank of England.
No, I've been told it's about 15 billion.
Well, there's not that much left in the Bank of England, because let's face it, Gordie Brown, Conklin Fist, self it all up.
No, they've built it back up again. They have built it back up again.
They built it back up again.
Yeah, there was a programme on that wasn't the Bank of England, but it was a repository somewhere, and they were showing you all these racks filled with gold, gold bars, right? And it's like I think it's about 15 billion that we are looking to take. So there you go. And in actual fact, I think we should just split it, and we'll get $3,000 each. How's with that?
The other thing people have got to remember, one of the first things we'll do is we'll have a new tax code. Professor Murphy's already wrote one, actually. We'll have a new, fairer, simpler tax system, and we'll tax the North Sea oil the same way that Norway does. So there'll be huge amounts of currency flowing into the Scottish Exchequer from day one. So this idea that Scotland wouldn't have a foreign currency reserves. Well, that Bank of England £20 note you've got in your pocket, that's a foreign currency. When we hand it out, that'll go into your bank, and that'll become currency reserves. There's 330 billion quid of Scottish pounds floating about out there in the sterling zone. 330 billion. Right, so when they 330 billion are handed into your bank to be exchanged for the new Scottish currency, well, the Bank of England's still there. It's real money. 330 billion right away in reserves. Nuts, honestly.
So anyway, you've listened to what we said about the mini budget, right? And also, you've listened to the wee bit of thinking between David and myself regarding as to the why. Why are they doing this, right? And I think that's a particularly important thing. I think that's something that we should be pushing, because it really will. It'll be quite interesting to see the Tories getting voted out, Labour coming in, and Labour suddenly going, "Oh, how are we going to finance this lot?" They're not. They're going to raise taxes.
Right, Wayne, I really don't understand this stuff. You're right, I got it for John Adams. He's one of the richest men kicking about, and he deals in currencies.
Yeah.
Man's worth, I'm not going to say his net worth because it's not nice. But that's what he does. He works in the currency markets.
Can you put up Jock Thompson's thingy?
Hey, hold on, where is it?
Halfway down. It's below halfway down. Jock Thompson.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, Jock, you know, it's like I'm a man that's been divorced, right? And I can assure you, it's like I'd be saying half. That's the first thing.
David, it's written into the treaty that we take an 8%, 10 per capita share. The Treaty of Union, that we take a per capita share of the new entity's debt. Right, that stops, of course, when we leave.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were talking about in 2014 when they admit it was Westminster's debt. But what's more important about that, also in the treaty, it says that any overseas assets are 50-50.
Yes. Yep.
So onshore we might only get 8.3%, but 8.5% or whatever it is. But offshore, all that out there,
yep.
all the military bases and all that, all the embassies and all that, we have a 50% stake in them.
What I would say is, take all the rest. Just give us the British Virgin Islands. That'll do it.
Or the Cayman Islands.
That's right, yeah. Decent place for a holiday and all the rest of it, you know. And what's the fact that it's swollen? I think the Cayman Islands, it's got something like £3.5 trillion pounds floating about in it, you know. So yeah, we'll take that, you know.
I never said anything about using Scottish people's savings, Wayne. Another thing, we're going to issue people with we're talking about money in circulation being exchanged. Well, the money that's being exchanged, the money that is exchanged still has value. It's still a real currency. It's called the pound sterling. Wow. Just because you take it off just because you issue new notes doesn't mean that they ones become null and void. There's still a value to the bank next door. It's their money.
Yep. Wayne, for every Scottish note, so let's say you take a Scottish £10 note, there is 10 sterling behind that. Simple as that. That's the way it works at the moment, right? And the gold reserves, we know fine well, we've got a chunk of that. I've postulated is about 15 billion. The last figure I actually saw, which wasn't so very long ago. So, to be honest with you, it's not something that I'm worried about. In actual fact, it's like I could have quite happily taken independence if I lived in Malta. And look at them now.
Yes, he doesn't get it. We take this money out of circulation, we haul it out of them doing that road because it's their money. They give us the value of it. We reissue it.
Yeah.
Or we reserve it because we're going to have that much money pouring in. We're not going to we need to reissue it. Anyway, if you read what Professor Murphy says, it's irrelevant. It's a magic money tree. Yeah. It's just numbers.
Yeah.
They have it's a bit like, what is it Mr. Murphy says? Professor Murphy says, the UK's national debt, who do we owe it to?
Yeah.
Ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
So therefore it's no debt, you're never paying it back to yourself.
Correct. Yeah.
That's like Davey going to the cash point machine, taking 20 quid out and then writing himself an IOU.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, yes.
Yes. Right, listen, let's wind this one up. We're 3 minutes over.
Okay.
That's a budget special. We can argue about currency and all that pish what you want, but the answer is quite simple. We have got plenty of assets. We'll have a better credit rating than they are UK, and if we need to buy in currency reserves, just do it.
Just do take into your heads that I said about the fact that I think they realise they're going to lose the election in 2024 or January 2025. They take it to the extreme, right? And they know that. And what they're doing is they're gerrymandering the situation to make it an impossible task for Labour to try and rebuild during the 5 years when they take power, right? So what you do is keep that in your mind and you discuss it amongst yourselves and look at what's coming down the line to see if there's evidence building to add more to that theory, right? So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And if you haven't subscribed before, please subscribe to the channel. The next target's 2,000. I don't know what we're up to at the moment, but the next target's 2,000. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and hit the like key as well. So thanks for coming.
And if you enjoy what we do, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, share it on the other social media platforms that you're on. But there's something I was going to say there. What we will see over the next 2 years as we get towards that general election is a massive transfer of wealth. A massive transfer of wealth from the public purse into private hands. We're definitely going to see that.
Yeah.
So, and that seems to be what they're going to do for the next couple of years. Stuff their own coffers while stuffing up the economy. And as you say, Labour will need to raise taxes. So the idiots doing there will vote them out in 5 years.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, and I'll say bye-bye, Davey.
Bye, David.